Welcome back to another Gaming Memories video, and here we are actually looking at Need for Speed High Stakes. It was actually the fourth entry in the Need for Speed series that was released on the PlayStation 1, and this was released in 1999 and was given the name High Stakes in America, and it was actually called Road Challenge in Europe. So there was a big difference. Sometimes it would cause a bit of confusion in terms of the name because not everybody knew which order it was in terms of the franchise, but essentially it was the same game. The only real difference was obviously the American version, with the apart from the name, was that the frame rates were a little bit higher and the game played a wee bit faster due to the higher frame rate of American consoles and so forth at the time. So the reason why I'm using High Stakes as an example in this here video is because when I first played this game, I did actually play the American version first off. I remember my mate Derek actually had it, because he actually had one of those action replay type cards, because he had an older version of the PlayStation that had a port on the back of it that you could connect up those cheat cards to it. But we were able to kind of have a walk around to play like import games on it using various kind of techniques with those type of cards that allowed you to play games from other regions. So it was pretty cool. So we managed to get himself a few games, import games, and Need for Speed High Stakes was actually one of them. And I remember when actually I got the chance to play it, he invited me over to actually have a go of it, and instantly I was just kind of blown away by how well it actually looked. Again, even when I mentioned in the previous video with Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit, which it was an awesome game, this here, even graphically, it just actually excelled. Even on top of that, you even looked at the quality of the graphics of the cars, the car models. It looked even more realistic than even the previous game, which was excellent. So it was. And there was a lot more array of cars available. As you can see here, you could start from low-end cars all the way up to high-end exotic cars. Plus, it was also the first Need for Speed in the franchise that actually allowed you to buy cars with money and actually allow you to upgrade them so that you could increase your performance, so that it would actually give you a bit of a boost and allow you to do better in races, especially if you were struggling. So you'd have to keep replaying races over in order to get enough money to buy a certain car that you wanted. So usually whenever I played this game, and I played it quite a few times, I remember even like later on, eventually when it came out then in Europe after a few months, I eventually then, when I got it cheap, I managed to buy the European version of it, which was Road Challenge, because I just really enjoyed the game that much. And 9 times out of 10, every time I started a new campaign, I would usually always buy the BMW Z3 because I just loved how it handled. And the fact is, with it being rear wheel drive, it was so much fun to actually drive. But even the handling mechanics in the game, even like they were really good in the third game, they'd actually made it better in this game. The tracks actually were a lot more diverse. The graphics actually were tweaked up a lot more, and even in terms of the environment, there was a lot more detailed in the environment compared to even the third game, which in my opinion was already looking brilliant anyway, and they actually made it better in this game. I know a lot of people would say that the third one is probably the best in the series in the PlayStation 1, which I would agree that it is, but I think that this one here actually had just as much to offer in terms of the playability, the type of cars that it had, and even just like with the likes of the track layouts and the environments, because I just thought the graphics in this game were beautiful for the time, and they still, I think in my opinion, hold up really well today, which is definitely a plus. This here definitely is without a doubt one of the best racing games in the franchise, and it's definitely one of the best racing games period on the PlayStation 1 in general, which says a lot because the PlayStation 1, as you know, was home to so many racing games. That's why, I'll be honest, that you're probably wondering why I do cover a lot of racing games in this channel. Is because I am obsessed with cars anyway. I've always been just obsessed with cars since I was a child, and I've always loved playing racing games. And when I eventually got to play racing games on the PlayStation 1, I was just completely blown away. I was like, yeah, this is perfect, because I love watching anything to do with cars. and the fact that you can get to race cars, and especially with games that looked as good as these games had looked, and the fact that they played as well as they did, this was just an absolutely fantastic opportunity to get stuck into it. And this here, because I was young as well, playing games like this here paved the way for my more passion with cars as I got older. And a lot of people, I'd imagine, probably feel the same way, because a lot of people that are passionate about cars will probably always go back to remembering what really got them into cars, even just being around cars, but then actually playing games like this here, like the Need for Speed franchise, Gran Turismo and so forth. There's so many iconic and unique cars that are in these games that a lot of people would have eventually gone on, even likes myself, have actually gone on to own at some point, because you've always wanted them, because you knew you played them in these games and you enjoyed the feeling that they gave you when you were playing them, and you're just like, you know what, I'd love to own one day if I could own one for real. So the chances are probably most of you gamers out there, after playing these games, probably have owned certain cars like that as well. That's the influence these games have on people, like, you know, and especially with the likes of games like these here that are so iconic. It really does. It just leaves a long lasting memory, and it still holds well even by today's standards, in my opinion. It really does. But in terms of the gameplay and the mechanics as well, it definitely is, like I mentioned, a step up from the previous games in the series. It may not look at as much in this here because you're driving a lower end car. Again, it wouldn't have been as fast as some of the exotic cars, but you know, as you progress through the game, once you start unlocking extra features and upgrading your cars and actually buying the more exotic and high end cars, you will definitely see an increase in how fast the cars are and the speed at which the races take place, which is pretty awesome. So this is definitely one for the books, for sure. It's definitely one of my favourite Need for Speeds by far, and it is definitely one of my all-time favourite racing games on the PlayStation 1, period, without a shadow of a doubt. It's such an awesome game. It definitely is. That's why I'll always put it, if I was to do, like, say, a top 10 video, which I will be doing at some point, you can guarantee that this game here will more than likely be in it at some point, because I just think that this here version of the game is actually awesome. And I eventually even remember playing the version of the game on the PC as well later on. I remember I got like a collection where I got Need for Speed 3, there was high stakes on it, and there was Porsche 2000 or Porsche Unleashed, and it was incredible to even play them on the PC, because again, they played pretty much the same, but you had even better graphics, because obviously back then the PC computers were a lot more powerful, and you could run them at really high resolution, so you could get super high quality graphics, really smooth graphics for the time. So again, it just overall increased your play through experience of these type of games. So you thought they looked good on this here, it just even got even better. So when you play, if you were lucky enough to play these type of games on the likes of your personal computers or PCs at the time back in the day, which was phenomenal. So again, any excuse to play any type of racing game, I was pretty much all in. That's just to tell you how much I actually love playing these type of games. It really is. It's a privilege to play racing games like this here, because they really were really that good, in my opinion. And I still think they're as good today, even as much so as some more modern games. I know the aesthetics on modern games, there's a lot more going on in terms of graphics and how well they look and stuff. But I think a lot of games today, now you may quote me on this, but I think in my personal opinion, a lot of racing games, and games in general, I always found they would capture my imagination a lot more on likes of these type of consoles compared to modern games. Because, well, I think it probably goes back to the fact is that most of what you see in modern games was all taken from these early concepts, and they've just kind of perfected it over time. But there's still something really unique and nostalgic about the raw elements of these original games in terms of the graphics and how they played, because they were able to get the most out of what they actually had, what the PlayStation could actually generate at that time, and to still make games look as good as they do here, which is fantastic. As you can see here, I'm just picking the BMW M5. If I'll be honest, the BMW M5 was actually my favourite car in this game, and I just loved it with the silver paint. It just really just set it off. any opportunity I would get to use the BMW, I would use it, and I would use it for most of the game to get through most of the areas and stuff like that. Obviously, when you got to the later end of the game, when you're racing the more exotic cars, which again this car could hold its own against them, but it would be difficult to win some of the more high-end races, so eventually you would have to use one of the faster cars. But if I could get away with trying to get as far as I could with it, I'd be using this car nearly all the way. I just loved that aesthetic, and plus for me, my personal favourite is this era of BMW back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. That's my favourite style of look of BMW cars, like the M5, the M3 and stuff like that. I actually love all those, that style of BMW. For me, I think it's definitely one of the best looks for those type of cars. They just look awesome. So that's why I just felt straight at home with always wanting to drive the M5 in this game. Because it's not the fastest car like I mentioned, but it's my favourite car, my personal favourite in this game. The one cool thing that they added with this game, as you can see, it may not be as present here on the screen, but they added more damage effects. So as the car got hit more, you could see more damage effects, even to a point that after a while the wheels would start to buckle, and you could see when you're going around corners the suspension would start to go, and you could actually see sparks flying from the wheels as you were going around corners because the car was heavily damaged, which was pretty awesome. Plus as well, they actually stepped it up as well with the likes of the cops. They were a lot more aggressive, even as much in this one here, and they also used spike strips as well, which was pretty awesome too. Like, so if you hit a spike strip, you wouldn't get too far after that. You're guaranteed that you'd be done. So there's really no room for error at all. You can actually visually see the damage down, even the sparks coming from the wheels and stuff, due to the level of damage that the car takes throughout the races. And it does actually affect the handling as time goes on, which is another unique feature as well. It actually makes the car a lot more twitchy, and sometimes even just genuinely harder to actually control. So you're constantly fighting with it then. So how you play does affect how the car handles, which in a lot of ways, even for an arcade type racer, actually had a lot of realism, and it actually definitely affected how you played it, which actually was really unique for its time as well. Kind of a little bit like the Destruction Derby kind of series. The fact is that it could do that, which I thought was really awesome. So it added a lot more to it. But again, as you can see, the visual style of the game, I just thought the graphics of the surroundings and the environments in this game were incredible. So they were really, really very well detailed. Like even in terms of the distance, the trees, like even the road texture and stuff like that as well. It was kind of reminiscent for those type of environments, like say based on like American type roads or different roads in different countries and stuff. So they definitely captured a lot of elements in it, which I thought was pretty awesome. No, I will admit, it's actually one of my favourite racing games of all time. I actually really enjoyed this one, even as much as Need for Speed 3, which I totally loved as well, and I mentioned that a lot in the last video. Again, if you haven't checked that one out, make sure I'll leave a link in the description so that you can check out the previous videos in the series. It's a good way to kind of see and gauge how far the games actually have come along since the first iteration of the game, even due to like Need for Speed 2, and then all the way how it improved so much in Need for Speed 3, and then it even added more in this game here as well, which is pretty awesome. So I will be doing another video now soon as well with the last entry in the series, Need for Speed Unleashed, Porsche Unleashed, or Porsche 2000 as it was called here in Europe. So make sure to keep an eye out for that one as well. Again, it kind of just goes a wee bit further on the type of game that it is, but it focuses more on the likes of Porsche rather than any other brands of cars. So as you can see there, I tried to dodge the spike strip, but it didn't end too well. yeah. As you can see, as the car gets damaged, it does affect the handling, so it really does, especially if you're driving at speeds. It's a lot tougher, so the chances of you getting caught out and losing are a lot higher. So it definitely is a lot to be desired for. But again, this is an awesome game, and if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend that you check Need for Speed High Stakes out if you ever get the opportunity. Even just go through and play all the Need for Speeds. but definitely I would recommend giving this one a go, especially if you want a game that where you have to kind of just upgrade your cars and you want to get a wee bit further on it and just enjoy the experience. I highly recommend this one. Definitely worth the playthrough. So again, what's your favourite experience with this game? Is this one of the first games you played in the franchise, or did you manage to, how long did you actually play this game for? And what do you think of it? Let me know down in the comments. So if you've enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. Also hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon to be updated for future videos, as I am going to be releasing a lot more videos around games similar to this on this channel. And as always, make sure to keep those gaming memories alive.